Hello, I'm Ashley Michaud, the founder of Elemental Growth, and this is your e-course on women's hormone health. I'm just going to bring up a slideshow here that I have created for you guys. Oh, sorry. Share screen. And now let's get this into a slideshow. Okay, perfect. Hope you guys are all ready and excited for this. I know I am. I've been working with Tanya to put this all together for you for a few months now, and I'm happy to say that, you know, this was a very helpful experience for me, and I really do hope that it brings some new awareness to you and inspires you to take your own health back, balance your hormones, and dive into some self-care. So here we go. This is Ashley's Natural Alternatives for PCOS, self-care practices to balance your hormones. How I can help you. So to start, I am an attuned Reiki master. I'm also a Reiki teacher. I got certified in Reiki in 2016. In 2017, I got certified in integrative nutrition, and in 2018, I got certified in hormone health. And how I can relate to you. So when I was in my 20s, I started having crazy hormonal issues. You know, my periods were always very irregular, even as a teen. So doctors constantly changed up my birth control and did different things. But when I hit my 20s, I decided I didn't want to do that anymore. And that's when some even bigger problems started showing their face. Things like the skin condition HS, which was causing me some problems. I also, at that time, had a surgery done for cervical dysplasia, and you know, my hormones were just really irregular. I was bloated. My mom, well, not always the most kind person, would also point out or ask me, you know, am I pregnant, because of how bloated I would get at times. And you know, of course I never was pregnant. The doctors in fact even told me that my chances of having a child, or and if I did become pregnant, you know, I would my chances for having miscarriage were very high, and my chances for getting pregnant overall was pretty low. So I'm not sure if that resonates with all of you or any of you out there, but women with PCOS in general, these are some of the common signs and symptoms. So I just want to say that no matter what it is that you're going through particularly, know that you're not alone. There's about 27% of women are going through this in some way or another, and it's really hard to gauge and determine because the signs and symptoms are so different, and because there are a lot of medications and things going around out there that cause different signs and symptoms. So, you know, just try to stay grounded in a community like this, somewhere that you can explore, somewhere that you can experiment. That's what I did. So this picture down here at the first one was me in hospitality school. That was the first time that I went to college for hospitality and tourism. That was me, you know, I showing that I'm having a really good time there, but that was a time in my life where I was in and out of different surgeries. I was feeling bloated. I wasn't feeling like myself or my best self. So when I was in my mid-20s, the middle picture here, that is when I started doing research and into my own health and started taking my power back. I started learning things about our food system, about nutrition, about what a healthy lifestyle was in general, I started learning about metaphysics and picking up books and reading and learning from lectures and all of the other resources that are out there today. I also started getting involved in some groups that were like-minded, where I could learn and grow in the areas that I was drawn to, which I found was really helpful and introduced me to some great people, such as Tanya. In this last picture here, that is me about 3 years ago now. That's right after I gave birth to my son, a child that the doctor said I would most likely never be possible. I had a all natural home birth. My pregnancy was perfect. I have absolutely no complaints whatsoever. I had morning sickness one time, and that was only because I had some dairy, which already my body didn't like. I'm quite sensitive to it. So as soon as I had that queso dip, that was the end for me. And it was an experiment that went wrong. I tried it, didn't work, and I stayed away from it for the rest of my pregnancy. And yes, everything went great, including the home birth. So it is possible. Let's get into some hormone basics. Hormones are chemicals that are produced by glands in the endocrine system. Hormones travel through the bloodstream into tissues and organs, delivering messages that tell the organs what to do and when to do it. Hormonal imbalances occur when there is too much or too little of a hormone in the bloodstream. Because of their essential role in the body, even small hormonal imbalances can cause side effects throughout the body. Hormones are important for regulating most major bodily processes, so a hormonal imbalance can affect a wide range of bodily functions. Overview of PCOS. Polycystic ovarian syndrome, or PCOS, affects up to almost 27% of women during their childbearing years. It involves cysts in the ovaries, sometimes very, very small. Sometimes it's just ridges or scarring from ovaries. So it does take a while to clear up, but it is possible. There may also be high levels of male hormones and irregular periods. So while I was never diagnosed with PCOS until after I had Finn, so I was 29 or 30 at the time, I showed all of the symptoms except for even though I would get bloated, I always maintained a pretty good weight. So nobody ever diagnosed me with PCOS until this time. But my periods were, as I said, always irregular. And the way that they found out that I had PCOS was by doing a hormone blood test. And now this blood test did show that my androgens were high, which is a male hormone similar to testosterone, or a type of testosterone. And that was causing a few other things too. We'll get into that as we go on. These are just overviews until we get into some of the solutions. So another overview would be doctors don't know exactly what causes PCOS. They believe it stems from factors such as genes, insulin resistance, and higher levels of inflammation in the body, which issues with insulin can cause that inflammation as well, and vice versa. So PCOS can also disrupt the menstrual cycle, leading to fewer periods, acne, hair growth, and not in the right places, right? People with PCOS, maybe they're losing this hair, similar to a man going balding at a premature age, but you might be also growing hair like on your underarms, your upper lip, other areas that you wouldn't want it to grow. There may also be weight gain, dark skin patches. Those are other symptoms of this condition. PCOS can increase the risk for infertility, metabolic syndrome, sleep apnea, endometriosis, or even cancer, and depression. I guess if you're experiencing all those symptoms, you know, it makes sense that you might feel a little bit depressed, have irritability, things like that. So let's talk about the sugar connection. You know, I touched on insulin a little bit there, but let's dive into this, because I know for me particularly, and for most women that I talk to about these issues, this is a very big one. You can get your sugar under control. You can usually control your PCOS. I also want to add, before I go into the sugar connection, that women with PCOS have higher risks of diabetes and even inflammatory brain diseases, like such as Alzheimer's and things like that. So it's very, very important to get this under control so that you don't have those issues, because you are more susceptible because of this. It's critical to avoid high sugar foods with PCOS. Eating less sugar results in low blood glucose levels. This decreases insulin levels and reduces male hormone levels. Most women with PCOS crave sugary foods even after eating meals. This is due to increases in insulin. The best way to manage insulin levels and cut down the amount of sugar in your diet are as follows. Choose root vegetables and fruit instead of sugary foods during sugar cravings. Root vegetables, they are higher in the glycemic index, but they are a whole food. They are a vegetable. They are a great source of nutrients and antioxidants and phytonutrients. They are incredible for cutting back sugar cravings. When you're craving sugar, you know, you can make a smoothie using a sweet potato and cinnamon and a banana if you want. You can also make sweet potato fries, different things like that. Great option. You can do beet chips. You can add beets into your hummus. These kind of things that give you that insulin along with tons of other nutrients will help reduce those sugar cravings. Fruit is another one. A good way to do this that we enjoy, that makes it a little bit extra special, is to freeze things. So chop strawberries into little bite-sized pieces and freeze them, or grapes, wash them really good, put them in the freezer. They're nice little snacks. They also make a little bit more unique, so it feels like a treat instead of regular fruit. Avoiding sugar in your diet will result in fewer cravings for sugar over time, right? Because when you eat sugar, you crave sugar, and sugar is, especially refined sugar, you know, sugars are beneficial. They are a source of energy, but refined sugar specifically, when you start taking the fiber away from the sugar, then you start running into problems, and your body doesn't know what to do with it. It goes right into your bloodstream. It causes those spikes and the crashes and the cravings. And refined sugar on top of that is 8 times more addictive than heroin. Let me say that again so it sinks in. 8 times more addictive than heroin. So cut it out. There's no way that you would be able to function or want to function as a heroin addict. There's no way that you should want to function as a sugar addict. You have the possibility of being better than that. And I know that you have it in you, and you have a why. Like, you want to stop these insulin spikes. You want to stop degenerative diseases from coming in. You want to put a stop to that. So you have a very strong why. Now it's just cut out that addiction so that you're not craving it anymore. Be sure to include healthy fats for breakfast and practice intermittent fasting at night. So healthy fats, especially for breakfast, are a great way to start. If anybody knows or has experimented with keto, you know that you can kickstart ketosis by adding in fats instead of the sugars. So by doing this in the morning, you're less likely to crave sugar over the day, as if you were to have a high carb breakfast or a lot of fruit for breakfast, or you do a juice or a high fruit smoothie. If you do something with fats, maybe you take a sweet potato, you put it in the toaster, like a little slice, put it in the toaster a couple times or until it's like a chip, and then you cover that with avocado. Maybe that's your breakfast. Or you can do an avocado toast or something, you know. Throw an avocado and some coconut oil into your smoothie that does have maybe some fruit in it, and just limit the fruit. Make sure that there's a nice equation of fruit and vegetables and healthy fats in there. Have and intermittent fasting. This is another good one. So I like to say to fast at least 10 hours. So that if you stop having dinner, or after dinner you stop eating about 2 hours before you go to bed. So there isn't going to be those nighttime snacks unless it's maybe like grabbing a couple frozen grapes from the freezer or something like that. But you should be able to go at least those 2 hours between dinner time and bedtime and not be eating. And then you sleep for 8 hours. That's your 10 hours. You can go a little bit longer if you don't feel hungry in the morning. But when I was doing my hormone health class, we were taught that women with hormonal imbalances should actually be eating breakfast within the first hour of waking up. That said, it's a very bio-individual thing. So while that may work for the majority of women, there are still some that maybe still want to fast a little bit longer and then have that have like some fats for mid breakfast or for lunch. You know, oftentimes I don't do breakfast. So an example of what I would do, I start my fasting at 8 p.m. at night. I wake up with my son at about 5:30 every day, and I make him breakfast and do fun things with him. I do a little bit of physical activity, whether that's dancing to a song or doing yoga with him or playing Monster with him. And then from there, I'll have breakfast after he goes to school or midway through my morning work. And that will either be like a smoothie with avocado. Sometimes I just do like banana and onion juice. Sometimes I go for like a reishi mushroom tea. And then whatever I'm having for lunch, it would be like a green salad with avocado in it, or a soup, or something like that. A stir fry, yeah. I try to get in those vegetables. I always try to get in all of the colors. But intermittent fasting is definitely something that'll help balance your blood sugar and can help you lose some of that weight that may be causing PCOS as well. Have sufficient amounts of healthy fats and protein with meals and snacks to help with you feeling full. Avoid high sugar foods, especially soft drinks, sweets, cakes, sweetened yogurts, and ice cream, sweetened cereals. Avoid adding refined sugar to any food and drinks. The Gluten Connection. It's another one. Hormone disruptors are chemicals that interfere with the functioning of the endocrine or hormonal system. They could be mimic hormones, causing our bodies to over or under respond to the release of hormones at the wrong time. In the case of gluten, wheat crops are sprayed with pesticides that act as xenoestrogens. These substances mimic the role of estrogen in our bodies and make us even more estrogen dominant. With PCOS, our hormones are so out of whack already. I don't want to be adding in anything else to my system that's going to cause further imbalance. There's one other link in the chain that we need to understand, and that's that chronic inflammation leads to insulin resistance. If we have insulin resistance, we need higher than normal amounts of insulin to regulate our blood sugars. High insulin levels are also going to cause high testosterone levels, which will make our PCOS symptoms even worse. So really what all of this means is that wheat is not grown the way that it was before. I am Native American, so I'll tell you how it is that we would get our grains. We would go out in a canoe at a special time of year. There's only a few days that you can go out and do this, and you would go out, and on the side of the banks of the river or the bay, you would find wheat, and you would shake that into your boat. And yeah, you can harvest wheat in the fields and things like that as well. What I'm talking about is actually like a rice, because that's what it is that my ancestors would use for most things. So it's not grown like that anymore. Now it's grown in a monoculture agriculture way. You know, there's no diversity in the soil. There's no diversity of other plants growing with the crop. It is sprayed with over a dozen pesticides directly on it in the soils. Sometimes it's sprayed in the trucks and things like that as well. So it's really not the same as it was. And in order to mass produce it, you know, they even changed some of the DNA makeup of some of these. So it's not what we grew up with. It's not what our bodies are used to. It's not anything. A lot of the time too, when you're going to the stores and you're buying a regular bread, anything like that, it's so refined that it turns into sugar instantly anyway. If you're still indecisive about the gluten thing, here are some options that I find very beneficial, and that is spelt flour. It does have gluten in it. You can swap it out for any other flour that you use very easily. The taste is pretty comparable, and it is a 1-to-1 ratio. And spelt is still an ancient grain. It hasn't been as manipulated through the system as most other grains. You can still get it at a reasonable price as well. And it's got tons of other benefits that you can check out for yourself. Another one would be to ferment your flours and your doughs. I ferment spelt. But you can ferment any of them, really. You can ferment anything. And what that does is really help your gut bacteria. You're creating a living organism by fermenting. And to ferment a dough, it's an equal part of flour with water, and you add it in every day. And eventually it starts bubbling and looking really good. And then that is your active yeast that you would use to make a dough. And yeah, it's very good for your gut as well. So those are two really good gluten ones. I do want to give one precaution here. When I'm saying go out and try this gluten thing, the gluten-free way of living, even for a little while, try it with an elimination diet for about 2 weeks maybe, and just see if it makes an effect for you. But here's a precaution. In the health food stores and in the grocery healthy aisles, when you're buying gluten-free things, still check the ingredients, still check the labels to see how much sugar is in there. And I'll teach you a little, not everything in the health food store is healthy for you. And I'll give you a little trick when you're checking the labels. You want to check the ingredients first. That's always the first step that I do. I make sure that I can read every ingredient. And if I can't read it or understand it, I'll take out my phone and I'll Google it and I'll see. If it's got a huge list of ingredients, then it's not worth my time and I'm putting that back on the shelf because it's probably not good for me. If when you get to the nutrition label, you want to check how much sugar is in it. On average, we should only be having 25 grams of sugar. Most children get that for breakfast. That's crazy, right? And that's why we're having these issues today. So another way that they can trick you with this is that, it may only say that there's 1 gram of sugar in it, but then for the carbohydrate it says 45 grams, but there's nothing for carbs or anything else, or there's nothing for fiber, sorry. So those carbs without the fiber, because it's been processed, is going to turn into sugar as soon as it hits your bloodstream. So you have to be careful about that as well. And if you need some extra guidance or anything, I'll leave information to contact me after this presentation. So let's get into some things now that we've talked about the stuff that you shouldn't be doing. Let's talk about the stuff that you should be doing. This is, you know, my specialty. This is what I love to talk about. So healing herbs. Let's start with my favorite, which is adaptogens. They get their name from the word adapt because of their insane ability to help humans adapt to any stressful situation. Adaptogens are usually, can usually be found wild. They're usually things that will sustain all different types of weather. They're very resistant. And that's the kind of stuff that we want to eat. We are what we eat. So if we're eating stuff that is perennial, that'll grow back every single year, very little maintenance, we want that in our body. If there's something out there that that can help us adapt to any situation, help our body adapt to whatever it is that's going on, adapt to its own processes that are maybe getting confused because of some of our environmental toxins, maybe some of the toxins that we're taking into our body through our skin or through our food, maybe even some toxins that we're taking in from our environment, as in our primary food, our spirituality, our relationships. All of that takes effect, and when you're using adaptogens, you can really see a change in how you can adapt to your everyday life. Another one is start out small by experimenting and tracking how your body responds to each substance and activity you engage with every day. So oftentimes with my clients, I'll tell them to keep a food journal. This is a really helpful tool, but it doesn't have to be just about food. Track everything that you do for a week at a time, or just a day, you know, a week or two would be great. But what I find really helpful, especially with my clients, is to just say, just for today. And if you forget to do it in the morning, whatever, just for lunch, you know, give yourself a break and just start with where you're at. It doesn't have to be at the beginning of a day. You know, if you start at lunch, it's still an accomplishment because you did it. And eventually you get momentum and it'll be able to go a lot faster. By tracking yourself, you'll be able to see some patterns of what foods are helping you, what foods are hindering you, what relationships are helping you, what relationships are hindering you, what activities help you, what activities hinder you. Just keep track of those kind of things because you're worth it and you deserve a very good life, and this is how you're going to get there, by learning about yourself. Oh, here we go, cutting out another one. This is a hard one for many people, and even though clients don't come to me for coffee and caffeine too often, it usually ends up being part of our program because they learn with time that coffee or caffeine is one of those things that's giving them problem. And women with PCOS, this is for you. You know, if you're cutting out the coffee, you start giving your adrenals a break. You know, I don't know if you've ever heard of adrenal fatigue or that's something that your doctors have brought up to you or friends have brought up to you, but it's a very common condition, especially with women today, and specifically caffeine drinkers. Caffeine consumption may be linked to changes in estrogen levels and hormonal behavior. Try boosting your energy with decaffeinated alternatives such as herbal tea. Some good ones that I often recommend is mushroom coffees. You know, you can do them with reishi or chaga. Another one is like these adaptogenic herbs. You know, ashwagandha is a really good one. Yeah, burdoc's good. There's a lot. A dandelion root, especially a roasted dandelion root. They all give you energy and help balance your hormones. So it's like a 2-in-1. And you can fancy them up with stuff like cinnamon and coconut milk and make it fun, make it enjoyable. And, you know, share it with your friends. Try to get them involved too, because it'll definitely make it more enjoyable. Superfoods. Superfoods are mostly plant-based, but also some fish and dairy that are thought to be nutritionally dense and thus good for one's health. Blueberry, salmon, kale, and acai berries are just a few examples of foods that have gotten the superfood label. I guess I should say earn the superfood label. So David Wolf is a nutritionist for nutritionists. He was also one of my teachers at the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, and he's done quite a few different presentations that I have seen as well. And he is the one who wrote the book on superfoods. The way that he says it is, you know, there may be a list of 500 foods that are good for me, but I want to know what number 1 food is good for me, and maybe number 2, and so on. In his book, he wrote about the top 10. I do highly recommend that. It's an amazing book. So, yeah, that's definitely the way that you want to start thinking about your food, is how much nutrition is there for me? Is it going to be good for me? Because not every calorie is created equal, despite most people's conception today. A calorie is not a calorie is not a calorie, just like a protein is not a protein, it's not a protein. It's all very bio-individual. First off, I just want to say, you know, one man's food is another man's poison. One diet that works for somebody one day may not work for them their whole life. One diet that works for your friend may not work for you. It's all a very bio-individual thing. But when we start looking at our food, especially our calories, for the nutrition quality instead of the amount of calories in a box or the amount of calories for a food, we start looking at how much nutrition am I getting for that calorie? Is that calorie worth it? Am I getting something for my body? Is it adding value to my life? And that's really how you should be thinking about it, because you deserve the best. You're here showing up for yourself. You deserve the best. So make that list of, you know, top 10 foods that are good for you, and figure and try to align with some other people that are doing these superfood recipes and things like that. Because I also find that is very helpful for many of my clients. Some deficiency dangers. Now, these are nutrients commonly that women with PCOS are commonly deficient in. The first one is magnesium. So I'm not going to get into the details actually of like all of these deficiencies, because you guys can Google that kind of stuff yourself. What I will tell you is how I handle these deficiencies in my own life. So for magnesium, which, you know, I used to get Charlie horses and different things. I didn't know at the time it had to do with magnesium deficiency. But I do now, and I've definitely over the years mastered some tools for this one. So a really good one, whether it's high in sugar or not, is dates. Dates are amazing, especially when you're on your period. They can be very, very good for helping with cramps and things like that as well. So dates are really good, and I'll fill up my dates with like a nut butter, maybe peanut butter, almond butter, tahini is even a good one, and then I'll put on some cacao nibs or some cacao powder, which, you know, cacao is not chocolate, is not a chocolate bar. Cacao is a superfood. It is actually like #1 superfood for your brain. It is #1 global around the world that people have been using as a medicine for millennia. So cacao is really good for you. It's again has tons of benefits and is a superfood. So as long as you're getting it from a good source, a quality source, something that aligns with your values, then it's going to be good for you. And so you can try that little trick. Another one for magnesium that I like is making what's called a magnesium oil, which is not really oil at all. What it is dissolving about 2 tablespoons of Epsom salts inside of 1 cup of boiling water. Once it melts down, it's all dissolved and cooled down. You can pour that into a spray bottle, and you can spray it on your underarms where it's easily absorbed, on the bottoms of your feet. If you, after your showers, you rub yourself down in moisturizer, you can spray it on your body as you rub it in with moisturizer. Very helpful. If you make your own creams, you can use the magnesium oil in your creams as well. Vitamin D is another common one. and especially living in Canada, that's where I'm from. So yeah, vitamin D is a big one. It'll help with the depression. And vitamin D is not so much a vitamin as it is a hormone in itself, a hormone that most people are deficient in, especially in these northern regions. So a good way is by getting outside without any sunscreens. Try to do this in the morning before the sun is at its peak. About 10 minutes of sunlight. Look up at the sunlight, do maybe a few sun salutations, run around your block, something like that. Another good way is by adding in mushrooms, especially mushrooms that do grow in the sun. They are a good form of vitamin D. Or a company that I'm affiliated with called On It. They do what I think is the best, and I do use it for supplementation at times, especially in the fall and winter seasons. It's a vitamin D spray. So it literally, you just spray it in your mouth. I do share it with my son as well. You can get different flavors. It's done with MTC oil, which is a healthy fat as well. They're very minimal in ingredients. It is all organic and gluten-free. You can reach out to me for those links, or you can go to my website, elementalgrowth.org/promos, and you'll be able to see On It there, as well as my link. You'll be able to order it. Sometimes there's different discounts on that link. I'm not sure what's there right now. Another one is zinc. Zinc you can get from beans is a really good source. That's usually most often what I recommend, because beans are also really good in fiber, which help with insulin resistance and things like that as well. Vitamin B12, despite what many people think, it's not just a vegan issue. This is a soil issue. So if you're eating meat that's factory farmed, and those cows or chickens are having GMO food, or getting food from agriculture, which most definitely I can guarantee is, unless you have your own chickens that are pasture raised or live by a farm, you're going to be vitamin B12 deficient, whether you eat meat or not. So a good way to get B12, again, is from mushrooms, or you can supplement it. Again, you can find those links for vitamin B12 on that promo page under the Amazon links. I have some shopping lists there, and you'll find the one that we use for that. But also mushrooms are a good way to get B12 too. Organic food, fermented foods. If you ferment any of your vegetables, that will give you some B12. A good way to tell if you're vitamin B12 deficient or if your levels are going too low is maybe you get some ringing in your ears. So I'll just throw that out there. There's some other ones, but that is a common one that I come across in my practice. Folate is our fifth common deficiency, and folate you'll get from your green vegetables. You hear that all the time, eat your greens. So yeah, you'll definitely get some folate from that. Try adding them into your smoothies. You can also we do a lot of chips with our greens. You don't just do it with kale. You can do it with collard greens. You can do it with mustard greens, different things like that too. It's fun. Physical activity. Maintaining a healthy weight can help decrease insulin resistance, regulate your period, and reduce your risk of conditions associated with PCOS. Some studies suggest gradual weight loss through a low-calorie diet as a promising first-line treatment for PCOS. So we did talk a little bit about calories. Not every calorie is created equal. So you do want to make sure that you're not just counting calories or counting the nutrients that go along with that. Balance your exercise. Exercise is important for maintaining a healthy weight, but too much exercise can disrupt your hormones. So talk to your doctor about a healthy balance. It doesn't have to be a doctor. It can be a coach or a personal trainer, things like that too. Maybe they're not all familiar with PCOS, but you know your body, and you can talk to them about where you think that you're getting overstressed out, and maybe they have another option for working that part of your body. And of course, it's all experimentation, you guys. You are a human experiment, and you don't want to be the government's human experiment experiment. You don't want to be the industry's human experiment. You want to be your own human experiment. So figure out what works for you right now at this age. And then, you know, as your body changes, you figure out what's good for you at that age. Gentle, low impact exercise like yoga or Pilates can be practiced for longer durations. Swimming and light aerobics are also recommended. High intensity interval training and long distance running may also help. High intensity interval training, there's a really awesome app called 7-Minute Workout. And that's all it is like an interval training for 7 minutes. They have little challenges on there too, so it helps you stay motivated, helps you track your progress. You can score yourself whether it was easy or not. You can track some other things in there. So that's a really fun one. On YouTube, you can find tons of stuff too. Yeah, there's tons of options here, guys. It's another thing is, you know, so many people talk about, oh, I go to the gym for an hour once a week. That is not enough. That's not what we're talking about when it comes to physical activity. We're talking about something that you do every single day. So you want to get this physical activity in every single day. So find an activity that you enjoy and that you love. For me, I play poi. So that's part of it. It's something that's enjoyable. It's something that I do every single day to better myself, but it's also a physical activity. And I get to listen to music and I get to dance at the same time. So if you're interested in more of this kind of stuff and how to find your unique physical activity, you can connect with me by email or a consultation or something at the end of this, because I have a quiz on how to find your fitness and enjoy the workout that will benefit you the most. Quality sleep. Sleep affects your stress levels and helps regulate cortisol to balance your hormones, but sleep disturbances are twice as common for women with PCOS. Aim for 8 to 10 hours of sleep per night, establish a regular bedtime routine, get horizontal by 10 p.m., and avoid blue screens, stimulants, and rich fatty foods before bedtime. You also want to avoid sugars and caffeine, things like that. The big one that I want to talk about here is get those 8 hours. You want 8 hours. You deserve 8 hours. Get it in. The best way to do this is to turn off your TV and electronics and be laying down in a horizontal position by 10 p.m. If you stay up past 10 p.m., you disrupt your circadian rhythm, and you will get a second wind. And then you'll stay up later and later and later, especially if you're looking at those screens. If you're looking at blue screens, you're going to be getting mixed messages from your body that is still daylight. You know, it's almost like you're being in a part of the world where it's daylight all the time. That's not healthy. And even those people go into somewhere dark because they know that they need sleep. So you deserve this. The only time that I'm not in bed by 10 p.m. is around the full moon, because I'm so aligned with my circadian rhythm that the full moon helps me stay up later because it's bright. And it's the same for animals. Animals will stay up later around that time because they can gather more food. They can do a little bit more hunting. They can do a little bit more things. And that's just part of our programming. That's a part of us. And it's very important to start tapping into that because it's going to help you be your happy, healthy best. Reducing stress can regulate cortisol. Yoga, getting enough sleep, and cutting out caffeine can contribute to lower stress levels. Taking walks outside and creating space in your life for relaxation and self-care can also reduce how stressed you feel. Endocrine disruptors are chemicals or ingredients that interfere or block our body's natural hormonal reactions. Some endocrine disruptors mimic female and male sex hormones, causing confusion in your reproductive system. This can increase your risk of PCOS symptoms. They're often found in canned foods, soaps, and makeup. Common endocrine disruptors include dioxins, phthalates, pesticides, BPA, glycol ethers. Those are just some. some common ones. There are tons. And there are tons of ways that you're probably getting stressed out in your life. So these are things that you can control. You can control how much caffeine you're having in a day. You can, and if you're having it every day, you know, there's no herb, which coffee is a herb. Caffeine does have some benefits. There's no herbologist that will tell you take something every single day, no matter what age you are, like, you know, or cycle you're in, no matter what medications, that would never happen. So at least take a break from the caffeine, try to cut back as much as you can, make sure that you're getting enough sleep. Try some yoga. I know it's like a fad right now, but it's not going away. It's here for a reason. It aligns you back to your spirituality. It's very grounding. It's very relaxing. It helps you move energy around your body that may get locked up in some areas and cause soreness, cause inflammation. A lot of the time when we get inflammation or disease or anything, it's because something's locked up in our spiritual body, and it'll find a point of weakness, and that's where the inflammation builds, and then that's where disease builds. And that's what's happened to us in some way, just in our ovaries and in that sacral chakra area. So if you have a chance, get into some yoga that's really working that area and helping you release those blocks spiritually as well as physically. And yeah, some relaxation through guided meditations is a good one. Self-care, you know what it is that you need to do for self-care. So make a list and actually schedule it into your planner. And then when it comes to these more environmental and these more environmental endocrine disruptors, you know, that would be good by figuring out what kind of soaps and makeups that you're using and how you can choose a natural alternative, whether that means making your own or investing in a company that is free of these kind of chemicals. Chakra therapy. Consider Reiki and other chakra therapies, like such as yoga. Kundalini yoga specifically, which you know, where my specialty more is. There's enough research to make a case for Reiki as an alternative treatment for PCOS. Reiki may help PCOS symptoms by increasing blood flow to your ovaries, reducing cortisol levels, helping with emotional support, and improving your sleep and overall energy. So what Reiki is like a kick-ass relaxation technique. You can do this over like distance Reiki over the phone, or you can do this in person with a practitioner that would use stones and smudge their hands, like different techniques, essential oils. But there's tons of ways that you can use Reiki in your everyday life. And then talking about the chakras. So the chakras are our endocrine system, just as hormones are our endocrine system. So there's a lot of correlation there. And when you start working with the chakra energy and life force energy, you can break through more of those blocks, as I said, that are finding that weakness inside of our body and creating inflammation and creating disease. Health consultation, as promised. My training from the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, all this talking, no water, swearing. My training from the Institute for Integrative Nutrition allowed me to learn about more than 100 dietary theories and a variety of practical lifestyle coaching methods. Drawing on this knowledge, as well as my additional certifications as a Reiki master and hormone health coach, I guide women just like you in creating a completely personalized roadmap to health and wellness that suits your unique body, lifestyle, preferences, and goals. You can learn more about my additional training and unique approach by visiting me at elementalgrowth.org, following me on Instagram at IamElementalGrowth, or texting me at 705-956-0647 for your complimentary breakthrough session. you can use that number again, which is 705-956-0647. You can use that by text or WhatsApp. Either way, I'll send you I'll send you a ticket for a complimentary session, or you can go visit me on my website. So I'm going to stop the share screen there and come back to you. So some other things that I provided to Tanya here is, sorry, my throat is a little dry now. I created some little gifts for you guys. What did I create here? So you get a copy of these slides for your own personal use. I also created a plant-powered menu for you with 60 simple, and by simple, you know, I'm a single working mom here, so they are simple recipes, and there are 60 simple plant-powered recipes there. And I also made you a PDF of natural alternatives for PCOS. So let me share screen here again, and I will just show you what some of this stuff looks like. Got an idea of what you're getting, and you can go over there and get it, download them. So right here, this is the PDF that you'll be getting. It just talks about hormones, what hormones do in the body, symptoms that come with hormonal imbalance, and then I start going into some things that are going to help you. So start adding in the good stuff. You know, I list all of the herbs and adaptogens for hormone health that I often recommend with my clients. I also did personalized nutrition, where I talk about the superfoods, things that you should be adding in every day. This is like the list, you know, like David Wolf said. You know, there could be 500, but you only care about the one, maybe two. But in this case, you're gonna keep going and experiment with these ones first, figure out which ones are really benefiting you, and then try to add them into your day more often. So there's, yeah, quite a few foods there and options. I talk about supplements, where you can get them. So some of these ones, like the vitamin D, the krill oil, things like that, you can get from Onnit, which you'll be able to find on my website, elementalgrowth.org, under the promo section. So you want to head over there. You want to check out what I've got there for you. Also, when we talk about the chocolate and those cravings, things like that, I'm also associated, well, I'm a sponsor for the Amazon Rainforest Conservancy. And one of our team members is Tribe Chocolate. And they're an amazing group of individuals. And they work in the Amazon just as we do, have a ton of property, and they host cacao retreats. Just really try to show people again and just how sacred this plant is, and that it is a medicine, showing the medicinal properties, how it's not a chocolate bar that you want, it's not a hot chocolate that you want the cacao, you want that bean. So that's another good resource that you'll find in my promo section. All right, you guys, this is it for now, and I'll let you guys go.